Hi class, I'm Lisa Croff. I'm here to talk about how strategic planning impacts communication. In the IABC Handbook, one of the authors, Lester Potter, wrote that if there is one thing that is absolutely critical to today's strategic planning process, it's agility. What he means by having agility is just being able to recognize and jump on opportunities before your competition does. He goes on to explain the different phases of the strategic planning process. And usually what's involved is an internal review, an external review, a strategy summary, and contingency plans. Objectives must be smart, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time sensitive. When we think about what a strategic plan is, basically it's just a way to map out how you are going to reach a goal or a certain point that you're trying to get to. And a communications plan is exactly the same thing. But when you have a specific goal that you want to meet and it's in your strategy plan, it affects the way you communicate what you're putting out there. Your end goal could be affected by the way things are said, by the way information is disseminated. So when we think about strategic planning, what we're really talking about is just figuring out a way to get from point A to point B. How do we want to take our company from what we're doing here to what we want to do over here? Or even who we appear to be and who we appear to be over on this side. So there's some kind of a goal that you want to attain. The communication plan has to work along with the strategic plan. You don't want to put a communication plan out that goes against what your strategic plan sets out to do. For example, key messages should align with the business goals and should be established and then shared with employees up and down the line. By doing this, you are aligning your employees to reach the goal along with you. So your strategic plan is really setting the tone for your communication plan. The communication plan is a support mechanism for your business strategy. If you set out a goal that, I don't know, let's take something simple like you want to reach a certain level of sales and you want to do it in a very specific demographic or industry. So you work out the business strategy and how you want to do that. Then you use your communications plan to get the ball rolling. Lots of research has been done on the impact of repeated positive communication, and I think we all see it in our daily lives when television ads run over and over and over again. You get them in your head. That's why they do it. And by communicating to your employees in different ways, maybe signs, meetings, reminders, emails, whatever it may be in your communication plan, it helps to cement your business strategy from the inside out. So again, the communication plan should be guided by what your strategic business plan has laid out. And let's not forget what we started with, the importance of agility. Roll with the punches, be willing to change, listen, and adapt. Now I'd like to throw it over to Charity.
Thank you, Lisa. I'd like to talk a little bit about question number 3 and how business issues are linked to communications. One might think this is a fairly obvious answer. Without some form of communications, a business can't even survive in the first place. But I'd like to focus on how effective communications practices relate to business issues and how an organization can take advantage of its communications team to help with issues management. In my own work life, I have most often seen this communications function in reactive mode. That doesn't necessarily mean it was all bad. Sometimes you react to good news, like awards won, clients signed, new buildings built, etc., almost as often as reaction to bad news or crises. But I think that the IABC Handbook of Organizational Communication is very helpful in outlining and then detailing how an effective communications team within a business can stop merely reacting to outside forces and begin to anticipate and plan for both opportunities and crises. As the book notes, communication encompasses both inside and outside communication. It lists a 5-step process for issues management, which I'd like to touch on briefly, and then relate my personal experience as to how these steps have looked like for me in a real business. Step 1 is identifying potential issues. As I mentioned before, this can be both good or bad issues that might present themselves. Through a careful review of the company's business plan, stakeholders, management concerns, and current communications efforts, the communicator can begin to predict both immediate and near-term issues, as well as looking far down the road to pick up on some long-term issues that may occur. In higher education, where I work, this type of strategic planning is done year-round, and we take it very seriously. For example, we need to be able to read the legislative mood as it applies to potential funding issues. Sometimes those are long-term, but one example from this semester is the Kansas governor's rescission of 2% of funds that had already been allocated and awarded to us. We had to return those, and it was only through the college's planning ahead for this contingency that the return of those funds wasn't a complete disaster. Once issues are identified, the communicator can help his organization prioritize those issues. Top priority issues are going to receive the most immediate efforts, and if a company is not in reactive mode and has instead planned ahead for these, they can really minimize that ripple effect. In higher education, we can already foresee that more cuts are coming, as well as tuition increases and changes in laws that affect us. We have triaged the most important, and we're trying to be proactive in dealing with them. The third step in issues management for the communicator is informing a position on an issue. This can take many forms, and it can involve many stakeholders, and there's really no one right way to do it, but generally speaking, it will involve many departments, and it will result in a detailed plan of how an issue might impact the company and how best to respond to it. That response is the fourth step in issues management. And fifth, the communicator has a large role in helping to monitor the issue. Issues are never static, they are constantly changing, and new issues are constantly cropping up. So effective communication is important, but it's also very important to form an issues team to monitor these things. In higher education, for example, it usually involves a committee that includes the college president, deans, key administrative positions, and people from the communications team, all with the expertise and authority to monitor the many ways an issue can impact the campus.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you, Charity. First of all, I would like to discuss crisis. The official IABC definition of crisis is an event, a revelation, allegation, or set of circumstances that threatens the integrity, the reputation, or survival of an individual or organization. It challenges the public sense of safety, their sense of values, their appropriateness, and the actual or potential damage to an organization is considerable, and the organization cannot on its own put an immediate end to it. Organizations have got to be prepared. They cannot improvise for crises. They have to have policy and practice and experienced communicators in place in order to deal with crises as they arise. Technology is the other thing I wanted to just touch on very briefly. Technology has come into its own. It is a huge benefit, but there are also issues that go along with the internet and the social media that goes along with the internet that businesses and communicators are dealing with. One of the big changes is instead of picking up the phone and talking one-to-one, now the communication is one-to-many. You send out a tweet to thousands of people as opposed to sending a message to one person. This has in turn sped up the dissemination of information, which brings me to the third change that technology has brought about is increased reaction time. Organizations have got to be able to respond appropriately to all the information that is coming and going out of the organization. It has become a less formal communication and a more social communication, if you will, both internally and externally in an organization. So hopefully all this information has been helpful, and hope you've enjoyed all of our information. and our board. Thank you.